Welcome to the Data Career Podcast. Here's your host, Avery Smith.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Data Career Podcast. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube and recording a podcast, as always. And I'm here with a very special guest, Susan Walsh.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. For those who don't know Susan, you definitely should go ahead and connect with her on LinkedIn. She is the founder of the Classification Guru. She is the Classification Guru, which is a company dedicated to fixing dirty data. They specialize in data classification, taxonomies, data cleaning, and she's the author of a newly released book, which I'm really excited about, Between the Spreadsheets. So it's a book about how to handle data more effectively and potentially save a lot of money with cleaning your data. And she's just a great person to connect with and follow on LinkedIn. So I definitely suggest connecting with her. So super excited to have you, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here too.
Yeah. How was that book writing? Are you glad it's over? Are you excited about it being out?
So glad it's over. I can't ever imagine wanting to do another one. I really struggle to read books. I just don't take information in at all. It's which is really weird because when I look at spreadsheets, I remember patterns and where the data is, but books, I don't retain the information. And so when I signed with the publisher, I was like, oh, no, I've got to write a book now. I don't know how to write a book. And then I left it all to the last minute and ended up with like lots of braces on my wrists because I just battered the hell out of them with speed typing. But I'm glad I did it, but I'm just not sure I could do it again.
Well, it's very impressive and very exciting. I think I have the link to check out the book inside this LinkedIn post and YouTube post, and I'll make sure to add the link in the show notes. But tell us a little bit more about what you do on a daily basis. What's a day in the life as the classification guru like?
It's a bit crazy. So I can be doing podcasts, I could be doing webinars, I could be doing presentations, I could be having meetings with my accountant and being all grown up. I could be having meetings with my team talking about projects that are coming up. I could be having new client meetings. I'm having a lot more of those and lots of random data problems that I'm kind of trying to help people solve. And lunch isn't really a thing anymore. And then actually, I actually do some work as well. So in terms of data modeling or checking the work that comes back from the team and making sure that it's all consistent and organized and accurate and trustworthy. And but I love it because I get bored very easily. And so the fact that every day is something different is really great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. I guess to go a little bit deeper into what you and your team do, like, are you guys like, when you say data cleaning, are you getting out a sponge and like, I don't know, touching the spreadsheets with the sponge, or like you guys getting Windex? Like what exactly
bleaching
is data
the hell
cleaning?
out of it?
Really?
Like
you just delete all.
Yeah, they give the heavy duty stuff. So there's two kind of arms to my business. So the first is the classification side, which tends to be procurement financial data. So that is normalizing supplier names. So PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, P.W.C, we'll put them in a new column and call it PwC. And then we'll classify it so that the procurement people can then know exactly how much they're spending with one supplier or how many suppliers are we buying office supplies from. Oh my goodness, 50. We don't need that many. So that's one type of data cleaning and kind of enhancement. And then there's like the really dirty, nitty-gritty, tidying up addresses, reformatting them. Some addresses have commas between the different parts of the address, some don't, it's just spaces. Some have abbreviations of like avenue or av, and then that creates duplicates or near duplicates. zip codes, postcodes in the UK. Some of them have a space, some of them don't. They all should have a space. Phone numbers, which I did a poll and nearly and got booted off of LinkedIn yesterday from. That's a debate as well. Everybody's using different formatting. So when you pull that together in one file, it's just a huge mess. And software can only do so much. There's, sometimes you really just have to get the rubber gloves out and just scrub away to get it clean.
Okay, awesome. So that makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like what you guys, what you're doing is, you talked about the two different things. One is making sure like names and categories in these text fields are all symmetric, as in, like you said, PWC isn't all lowercase, all uppercase, periods in between, the full name, all that stuff. Because we as humans, our brains are smart, right? We're able to understand that, if we took, I don't know, if we took LinkedIn, for example, and, some of it was capitalized and some of it wasn't, or if we called it LI for short, or something like that, we as humans we're able to like understand, oh, I understand what this person said. It actually equates to LinkedIn. But computers aren't that smart naturally, right? And so you're basically helping computers think like a human and be like, oh, these actually are the same. We need to make them the same for
Exactly.
the
And
computer.
you need to do that manual bit first to give the computers and the software and the AI good data to learn from.
Yeah.
So, even things like Hilton Hotel or the Hilton Hotel, if you're
Oh yeah.
searching alphabetically, Hilton's going to be here, but it's also going to be down here under T. So, possibly a computer's not going to pick that up, or it's going to misinterpret it, or so things like that. Or there's like DoubleTree by Hilton, so
Yeah.
that's another misleading thing. So all those kinds of things. It's just I've been doing this for a decade. My team, we've got about 40 years between us in experience, so we can just look at these things and know, like, we can go into a data set and just go looking for them rather than waiting to find them now.
That's impressive. And you're totally right. I was thinking about a project I did when I was at ExxonMobil, looking at hotels for a little bit. And yeah, hotels are really tricky because you have like operating names and different brands that like,
Some of them are franchised.
yeah. And yeah, I remember all that data. It's some of it's very complex. Some of them would have names like, I don't know, like Houston Hilton versus Hilton New York City. Like you definitely have to kind of tease out some of that stuff. And you're totally right that, if you had, if let's say you had, we just take one of the most common data sets, the iris flower data set, which has, the three different types of flowers. If there's one typo in one row, and you're trying to make a machine learning algorithm, that like classifies these different things into different categories, it's going to have four categories because the computer's only so smart. It's like, oh, I see four different things. And even though it's just one row, one letter, a computer's not like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what the human was trying to do. We need the classification guru to kind of bridge that gap.
Yeah, and actually, I've just done a proof of concept for some work, and it wasn't supplier names, but it was descriptions. So the
Mm,
description was AHU dash valves. So AHU stands for air handling unit, which I found from other parts of the data. So for a start, I don't think, unless you told a computer that, it wouldn't know that. But
yeah.
also, and this is a people problem too. Some people might just see the AHU and classify it as an air handling unit, but actually it's a valve for an air handling unit. So you have to know that it's a spare part, not the air handling unit. So it can get really complex. It's not always, even for humans, sometimes it's hard unless you know what to look for, or if you've been doing it for a while, then it becomes obvious.
Yeah, I like what you said also. It's kind of a people problem because this problem it exists, it becomes in two different ways. Either you have different systems, computer systems that don't work. You're combining multiple systems data into one data set, or you're aggregating data from multiple places, and those systems don't have like the same notations. And that's kind of a data management thing, right? That's, Scott
Yeah.
Taylor talks about that quite a bit. Or it's human entry data. So for instance, I know when I was at Exxon, we had a really big database that was full of PDFs that were scanned into a computer. And the PDFs were all, pen, like literally people writing stuff in.
Oh,
And we as humans, like, we just aren't very, even with ourselves, we're not that consistent about what we write down.
yeah,
But then nevertheless, you take 100 people and you ask them to write down today's date. Some of them might spell it out, some of them might write it out, some of them might just use letters, some of them might use the full year, or some of them might just use 21. Like, we
yeah.
as humans just like to make chaos, huh?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's, even the same person could write something a different way on a different day. It's that spontaneous and sporadic.
Yeah, I know I'm guilty of that. Especially with dates. Dates are like one of the most troublesome things in all of data. They're so tricky to keep straight, and I'm sure you probably end up having to deal a lot with some dates sometimes.
It's for me, it's more I'm dealing US and Europe now.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yep.
the UK, and so where possible, I'm spelling out the date just to be absolutely 100% clear what the date is. Because otherwise it gets so confusing. One minute I'm working on a proposal for the UK, the next minute it's the US. It's like, what date should I be using? I don't know. So yeah.
I don't know why us Americans still just have to do everything different than the rest of the world. Like, I don't know
It's not
what's
just the Americans, it's everybody's. You can't, even within a single organization, get people to agree on a date format, and they're
Really?
just in. Yes.
Europeans, you guys don't have
Yeah.
one date
No,
format?
no, 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 no. So the
At
last
least you
couple of.
guys don't use like the month first, right? You guys use day, month,
Yeah,
year,
no, we
right?
do like the month first. But
Oh.
there's so many dots, dashes, spaces,
Oh
slashes,
yeah,
all that
that's
stuff.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is a good point. The slashes and the dashes. Yeah. I was just I helped teach a data engineering bootcamp at MIT, and we just had a session on SQL. And oh wait, no, that was actually a Python session, huh? But regardless, all these students were getting stuck on date formatting, and it's hard because a computer can't always. That now there is some good software written to help interpret dates no matter how you write them. You're right, we can write some logic behind that, but man, they were getting really stuck on the dates. It's a complex thing.
So again, I did a couple of polls on LinkedIn around dates, and nobody could agree.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yep.
could agree. And also, people are using different date formats for different things, like files. They're maybe doing year first, so that it's
Yeah.
ordered numerically by
Yeah.
date. But then in Excel, they're using something different, and then when they're signing contracts, it's another whole different date. So I don't think we're going to solve that problem anytime soon.
So basically, you have a job for the next foreseeable future.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's good news. Well, tell us a little bit. This is the Data Career Podcast, so we do talk about technical things quite often, but we also talk a lot about more less technical things, more soft skills, I guess, or people skills. How
Yeah.
did you how did you become the classification guru? What's a little bit about your career story and career progression?
Yeah, I completely fell into it by accident. So my early career, I did a degree in commerce. I came out, I worked in sales, national account management, did that for about a decade, and then decided to open a clothes shop because I
Cool.
decided I didn't want to do sales anymore. And it was a lovely, beautiful clothes shop, but nobody came in and bought anything. So it
Oh
didn't last
no.
very long. Yeah. And I was desperate for some work. So I found an ad online, went to go and work for a spend analytics company. Because I'd worked in large organizations, I knew what they were kind of buying. So the classification aspect came like really naturally to me. And I found I really enjoyed it. Probably the first thing I thought, wow, this is like easy and I love doing it. This is great. And I spent 5 years with them, and they were using some software. I was using it too. And then I developed my own kind of methodology on how to classify, and I was doing data modeling. And, I don't code or anything, but I can do a lot of coding type activities through the data modeling. And then I realized that, specifically with the classification, I thought nobody's as good as me. Nobody can touch me when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so I set up my business, and I was like, well, nobody else is going to call me a guru, so I'm just going to call myself one. I also wanted, I wanted a fun name. I wanted it to be memorable, not just, a consultancy type name. And it kind of took off slowly from there, but mainly because there was a need for my services. When I had worked at the spend analytics company, I saw all this messy data come through the door. But what they were really paying for was the sexy dashboard. But actually 90% of the project was the cleaning of the data. And I thought, surely people, need to talk about this more. And surely people need their data cleaned, not the dashboard bit, because, I knew where my skills lay. I could do a basic dashboard, but that's not really where my passion is. And so I found that, there was interest, but nobody was looking for me because nobody else was doing this kind of service. So it's taken a good few years just to build up my brand, awareness of what I do. And really in the beginning, I was targeting purely procurement people. And it was only by doing some posts on LinkedIn around taxonomies, spend classification, normalization, that I suddenly had the data world join in too and embrace me and welcome me in. So yeah, that's kind of my happy accident, really.
Well, what a cool journey, and I like what you said. No one else is calling me a guru, so I'm happy. I was happy to do it, and I think that's something. There's an interesting line in just careers in general of being confident in yourself, and not having imposter syndrome, but also not being a total fraud too. But I think too many people sit too far on the imposter syndrome side.
I think so. I didn't know how to, and even till this year, I wasn't really quoting properly for projects. I was just giving them a quick email saying, "Oh, it'll cost you this much." I hadn't come from a businessy consultancy background. I had no idea how to do all that kind of stuff. I just was learning on the job. And sometimes you just have to, if it's something they really need and the service is good, it doesn't really matter about whether your proposal is really good or looks really awful, as because you've got the service to back it up. So yeah, having a bit of belief in what you do goes a long way. And in the beginning, I was very, very kind of strict about, I'm only going to do this. But then I started taking projects from freelancer websites, that didn't hardly make any money. I probably made a loss on, but I learned some new skills like database cleansing. I'd never done that before, but, take a couple of cheap projects off of Upwork or People Per Hour. And learned some new skills, which meant when bigger companies came in and said, "Could you do this?" I was like, I could then say, "Yeah, actually I can, because I've done it before." And I'm also not afraid to say to clients, "Well, I've never done it before, but we can certainly try." And people are happy with that too. You'd be surprised.
I think that's an interesting point. And I love what you said about, I took some projects where I didn't make the world's, I'm not Elon Musk making a bajillion, dollars, but I got paid to learn. I think that's something that people undervalue. There's basically 3 ways to learn. You can pay to learn, by going to school, all that good stuff. You can learn for free, right? You can learn online, you can learn on YouTube. But there's this third option that people don't talk about that often, and that is get paid to learn. And, I think a lot of these, I've taken a job, for instance, on Upwork before, where I had no idea how to do it. I charged way too little, but I learned a new skill in the meantime. So instead of paying, X hundred of dollars to learn this skill, I just I just got paid that
Yeah.
amount to learn it. And you know, am I the best at it in the world? No, but do I have some experience? Yeah. And like, do I
Yeah.
regret that time? No, I think it was a learning experience. And I think sometimes we get too down on ourselves. Oh, that didn't work out. But it's like, well, you learned a lot in that process.
And it's a really great way to test out what you like doing and what you
Oh
don't.
yeah.
And I think, uh, I, I've never known what I wanted to do. I never had a calling. And so I kind of stumbled into this by accident. So by testing out a few things, it gives you the opportunity to find out what you really want to do. If you think you might want to work in marketing, do a couple of jobs on a freelancer website, see if you like it. And if you don't, then it's not for you. But also, I mean, business wise, I learned a lot too through dealing with those freelancer websites, because one of the clients, we started working offline and they didn't pay me for 9 months, and so I had a whole new experience of how to chase for late payments and things like that. And also scope creep.
Oh yeah.
Suddenly you want a bit more and a bit more and a bit more. So yeah, it teaches you a whole range of different things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really appreciate that. One thing I think you do very well, that you kind of mentioned earlier, is you're like, at first no one really knew who I was, no one really knew what I did, because no one was really offering the service. But obviously, hopefully that's changed. Um, what like you have great branding and you have great marketing. What
Thanks.
goes into your brain? What do you think about? Like, what's your thoughts on your branding and marketing and how to get to where it is?
So, well, I guess from the very start with the name, The Classification Guru, I wanted it to at least reflect some of my personality. I've got to be honest, I never thought I'd be sitting here talking to you behind like a spangly background, saying that I do lip sync Sundays, etc. That
Yeah.
all came completely left field. I just realized that I needed to get noticed, so I had to be a little bit different. And I knew that there was a bit of a risk involved, because if I'm a bit edgy, a bit different, people might not like it. They might not consider it professional enough. But at the same time, I didn't really have anything to lose. Nobody knew who I was anyway. So it kind of didn't really matter. But what I actually found was that by yes, showing my knowledge, and I can share my tips and stuff, and I do all of that, and I've justified my kind of guru status by sharing a lot of knowledge. I'm not scared to share that, because same with the book. Some people said when I wrote that, "Oh, aren't you worried that they'll just take all your ideas?" And I'm like, yeah, they can go and read the book and they can do it themselves, but I still know I could do it better. So I'm not worried about that. And by sharing that raises your credibility, not just your reputation. But then also it's boring. People don't really want to see a lot of, like, certainly don't want to see salesy stuff. They want to learn stuff and get tips, but they also just want to be entertained. So everything I do, I try to do around either running a business or procurement or data. That's the kind of, even the lip sync Sunday songs, I try to base it around business or data or procurement, but make it fun, because I treat people on LinkedIn like my co-workers. Everyone's just my co-worker. We're just having a bit of office banter.
I like that, and I mean, you're right. Like, you have to stand out one way or another. And I think people are maybe, I don't know the reason, but they don't stand out enough. I don't know if they're afraid. I'm not exactly sure what it is necessarily, but it is good to stand out sometimes. It is good to be
Yeah.
different. And I think especially people, I mean, obviously as a business, you have to, right? We think a lot about marketing in a business sense, but we don't think a ton about marketing in a career sense, even though it's just as important. I mean, either
Yeah.
way, you're spending X amount of hours, 40 hours a week doing something. You want to be doing, making the most money you can, doing something you love from that. I
Yeah.
think we can market ourselves as humans more often, even if we don't have a business.
I think if I was employed now, I would be sharing examples of projects I'd worked on. I'd be asking people in my network, in my industry, you know, I'm having these issues, are you having the same? Getting some discussions going, and getting just your just awareness of yourself out there. You know, you don't have to have a business to drive that popularity or awareness. You know, you can be somebody within an organization and raise your profile. And something that I'm quite proud of, that I didn't really set out to do, but has happened, is I'm the kind of person people want to work with. I hear quite a lot people say, I can't wait to have a project that we can call you in on, you know. So it's the long game. And I think career wise as well, you have to think about it like that. Just because you do one post is not going to suddenly get you a job. But if you're consistently posting little projects here and there, you're planting seeds everywhere, you know, months or years later, people come back to me because they've seen me somewhere. It doesn't have to be straight away. That's what's really important.
Excellent point. I like that. And people do love you. Apparently, we have Andrew Gibbs here, and he says,
Hey,
"Susan, I love
Andrew.
you. You're living in the same world of data hell that I've been in
Yeah.
for years. Hang in there." And the
Yeah.
U.S. Department of State had 47 different records for
Pretty good.
IBM.
That is pretty impressive.
I don't
I've seen PwC as well. You can get a lot of versions of them.
I don't even know how you'd get 47 of IBM. You'd
Oh,
have to be like,
I have seen International Business Machines as a supplier. Now, it's not been that for what, decades? But that is still in some people's systems as the supplier name. So,
wow.
yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
I guess
In
going
fact,
back,
that name probably hasn't been used since before you were born.
I was gonna
I'm
say
guessing.
I didn't even know
Maybe it's a young thing.
I didn't know that's what it stood for.
Woohoo! I just taught you something. Yay.
Yeah, I didn't even know. They
Yeah.
haven't really been super relevant. I mean, as relevant as Microsoft and Apple, obviously. So
Yeah.
crazy.
ADP is another one. The
Mm,
payroll people. So that's
mm.
automatic data processing. So you see them as their old name.
It's crazy. It's people can't decide on a name, or I guess they have too many nicknames and too many abbreviations.
Well, it's actually, I'm not sure about the US Department of State, but if you've got a global data set, what tends to happen is you'll have IBM Inc., IBM
Mm.
Limited here in the UK,
Oh
IBM
yeah,
SA in Spain. You might have
gotcha.
IBM SPZOO, or it could be PTY in Australia. So then you get all these little like country add-ons that cause chaos.
And you'd call those changing those to all one correct IBM, that's data classification, right?
No,
That's what
that's normalization.
no, that's normalization.
So
Okay.
classification would be then taking that normalized name IBM
Uh-huh.
and going through the descriptions and
Uh-huh.
classifying the data. So for example, you'll have in there servers, you'll have printers, toner maybe, laptops, monitors, consulting services. So they would get categorized to whatever they were. So level 1 would be IT, level 2 might be hardware, and then level 3 might be laptop, or level 2 might be software, and level 3 might be business software. And so then the client can then look at IBM and go, okay, so all our spend is in IT, that's good. We are spending X amount on hardware, X amount on software, and X amount on consulting. And generally, that is not happening in most businesses right now. They don't really have a true picture of what's going on.
I see. So normalization is making sure the name is correct, and the classification is making sure that you have like multiple levels of hierarchy, so that you can actually see where it's going.
But then also, if we go back to the laptops,
Mm-hmm.
if they were to do just a search of their data on the description, the laptop could be called a laptop. It could be called an HP 285X. It could be called So by categorizing them all as what they are, laptops, they can then get that true cost of how much they're spending. Or if it was sales, it could be a sales company. If you wanted to categorize your data, how much are you selling of a top or a shoe to to what a country or a customer or wherever you want.
Okay, so it's almost adding an extra column sometimes with like the categories.
Yeah. Normally it's like 1 to 3 levels is normally the norm.
Okay, and with that, here's another term. I'm not totally sure what it means, and I don't even know if I'm saying it correctly. Taxonomy? What's that?
Taxonomy, yes. So a taxonomy is the structure, the hierarchy that you use to categorize the data. So it's also known as a category tree. So where I've told you level 1 is IT, level 2 might be hardware, and level 3 is software. That's in a different file that you would then use to categorize in the data file. But level 1s tend to be things like IT, professional services, facilities, HR, marketing.
Gotcha.
And then you would drill down into more detail in the level 2 and the level 3.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's say I have some dirty data, okay?
Yeah.
And let's say obviously the number one choice is send it over to the classification guru. But let's say for some reason you have too many clients, you can't take on any more work. What would you suggest? Like, what are some tools that someone can use to clean data? Like, how would someone get started with data cleaning?
Genuinely, like I'm not even like, that's the reason I wrote this book, because there is nothing out there right now. There aren't resources to cover this off. It's the thing that everybody's expected to know how to do, but there's not really any resources out there. So this shows you in Excel, but the tool that I use is called Omniscope. So it's a data modeling and visualization tool, similar to maybe a hybrid of Alteryx and Click, or Alteryx and Tableau, something like that. And over the years I've developed a way to work it and manipulate the data so that we can work really efficiently. But that's kind of next level stuff. I think really you need to nail the basics, which you can do in Excel. Is understanding the data. So data scientists are really great at being at building algorithms, writing scripts, using formulas, but they don't necessarily understand the data or the output that it produces. And so what I'm trying to do in the book is get people to think about not just the process, but actually the data. What's it being used for? How do you know if it looks right or wrong? Those kinds of questions. Because I've had arguments with data scientists, because they'll argue that the AI was right, for everything's right, but the output is terrible. So because they don't understand the data that they're working with. So I think it's really important that when you are doing these things, you understand the data, or work with someone who does know it, so that they can guide you to get it right.
Yeah, that is really important. Yeah, it is. I mean, there you go, guys. If you want to learn how to clean data, the book's the best way. One of the I'm sure one of the least efficient ways, but probably the most common way to fix dirty data is probably with the Control F, Control R function in Excel. Just find everything and replace the stuff.
When you're normalizing suppliers, one of the suffixes that often comes up is Inc. after the company name. But if you do a Control F and R on that, then you're going to take out the Inc. in every single word. And I have done that. And I have been there, and I have not realized that I've done that for maybe 5, 10, 20 minutes and had to start all over again because I couldn't restore it. So yeah, I've
careful.
I've been down that road. Yeah, you have to be really careful.
Yeah.
And again, it's about knowing the data, because you could do Control, search and replace, and then not even realize that it's wrong because you don't understand the data.
You do bring a good point that anyone working in data should almost have an intimate relationship with that particular data set. You have to know it inside out, which just, it's like a human. How do you get to know a human? Yeah,
It tells you things. It tells you about things about the person who input the information.
Yep.
It tells you things about the company that you're working in. It's more than just data or just a number or a piece of analytics.
Yeah, it could be like a whole story, and it can really help you lead to really important insights. I have a client I'm working for right now, working on a data set that has over 100 columns and over 10,000 rows, so nothing huge, but they're pretty cost sensitive, and so they're like, okay, be fast, and I'm like, okay, but I almost wonder sometimes if I'm missing things because of that speed. It's like I haven't looked at every single cell on that table, which I'm not saying you have to do, but understanding every single column. I haven't even looked at every single column, to be honest. So it is.
Well, but that's smart because know which are the important columns and sense check those ones, because some of them are just created by dates and all that kind of stuff. In my world, they're kind of useless. The things I need to look at are supplier names, invoice descriptions, the value, what currency it's in, and that they're my main things.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely not all columns are created equal. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, this has been a really fascinating conversation. I think I've learned a lot. I've learned about the word taxonomy, which is not taxes. It's something completely
Or
different.
taxidermy. That's the other
Oh
one.
yeah, that's not taxidermy either. We did learn a lot about cleaning data and why it's important. We're excited about your book. It's available. That's very exciting. What, I guess, on kind of a closing note, what advice would you give to I'll let you kind of choose, I guess, to just people working with data in general, and or people that want to start their own thing and become an entrepreneur in one way. I'll let you kind of decide what route to take there. But what advice would you have?
Well, first of all, for everybody, do something that you love, because whether it's your job or your business, you're going to spend a lot of time on it. So make sure it's something that you love or at least enjoy. If you're looking for a career, then I think it's okay to not know what you want to do in 5 years. Be open and see where things take you. You don't have to have that plan. I've never had that. I don't know where I want to be in 5 years or 10 years. Hopefully, still paying my bills and being the classification guru. But because I don't set myself specific targets, it keeps my mind open for other opportunities that might come along. And patience, I think, especially when I was younger, I was so impatient. I just wanted to be a director, and actually it's the skills that you pick up along the way are what lead you to becoming a good whatever you are. So I have a really specific, unique set of skills in business and a little bit with data that most people don't really have. It's unique to me, and that brings a different kind of perspective. And those skills along the way, whatever you're doing, are what are going to lead you to your ultimate kind of dream job or business. If you are wanting to go down the entrepreneur route, do it yourself, save up a shed ton of money. It took me 10 months to get my first client. Now, not saying that's going to be the case for everyone. If you've got a network, then that's great. I didn't have that, so I had to build my business up from nothing. So save up a lot of money, have a good support system and network in place. Friends, family, other business owners, different people will be good to talk to for different things. I can't really, I talk to my dad about the business, but he doesn't really understand it. But I can talk to other business owners and they know exactly what I'm going through. And don't give up. If you really believe in something, just keep pushing through. Like I said, I had no connections when I set up this business. Nobody knew who I was. I didn't have a reputation, so nobody trusted me. And I just had to kind of fight for that position and that place and earn the the kind of reputation that I've got now and prove myself. You can do it. Like, it's not an easy road, but you can do it. And if you're not happy in your job right now, do something else. Like, even if it's just doing the same job in a different company but with nicer people, just go and do it. I'm a big believer that if you want to start something new, start from the bottom and work your way up. That's exactly what I did with data. I came in at the bottom and kind of learned my skills and then did something with it. That's if you want to be really good at your whatever area you're in, data, not data, anything, like really learning from the ground up is a really good place to start. And people can't always afford to do that, but then that's what those freelancer websites are for, supplement your income, etc. Throughout my career, I've had 2 jobs, I've worked God knows how many hours, I've done this, I've done that. If you really want it, you'll find a way.
I love that. That's great advice. Yeah, you have 90. Most human beings will work for 90,000 hours in their adult life. Do you want to do something that you hate while you're doing it, or something that you like?
Exactly.
So life isn't always about, obviously, like you said, you got to pay the bills, but life isn't always about money, because you want to have some fun in those 90,000 hours. So.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. I hope everyone who listens to this takes that to heart and thinks deeply about what they're doing right now and if it's where they want to be. Susan, thank you so much for your advice on data cleaning. Definitely check her out on LinkedIn, everyone. And if you want to learn more about cleaning, check out Between the Spreadsheets, which is available to purchase right now, right?
It is. It's actually in the US now.
There you go. I'll throw a link into the show notes for it as well. And Susan, thank you so much again. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.